Hello and welcome to Faultlines. I'm your host SHAHZAD RAZA. The relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America is entering into a new era. Both countries, they have committed to ensure durable peace in the region and take their relationship to a new level. Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir is on his second official visit to the United States of America in capacity of Field Marshal of Pakistan, and he met with the senior and top leadership of the US Army, and also he addressed the Pakistani community residing in the United States of America. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif resolved to eliminate the menace of terrorism from the country. We have seen a recent surge in cross-border infiltration from Afghanistan into Pakistan, but the security forces, as we discussed yesterday, foiled several bids, and during the last 36 hours, more than 50 the Khawarijis of Fitnatul Hindustan were eliminated. We are going to discuss these two important issues, and I'm being joined by Humayun Khan. He's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Humayun Khan sir, for your time. Brigadier WAQAR Khan and GR BALUCH, former ambassador, would also be with us during the program. Humayun Khan sir, without any delay, let me ask you a question. When Field Marshal says that India is portraying itself as a Vishwa Guru, and its the literal meaning is that the world leader, it's a fake portrayal of India. India tries to be, or poses to be the world largest democracy and takes pride in secularism. But gone are the days when India was a secular state and respecting the religion and the rights of the neighboring country. But why the Field Marshal felt the need to address and focus and urge this point before the US audience?
Thank you, Shahzad. I think it's a very pertinent question, and this is basically last few months, and I would put it like last few years when Prime Minister Modi was in charge of his government and helm of affairs. The way he has portrayed his policies, implemented his policies of a very secular India, which we all used to see and know, is completely the reverse of that. He wanted to make India as a Hindu Rashtra, which is, again, in a way, from the religious point of view, we have no objection to that. But if no other minorities, no other ethnicity, no other human rights are respected in that part of the country, then what to talk about the most largest democracy, the oldest democracy in the world? So when Field Marshal Asim Munir Saab addressed this issue, he was basically just highlighting this issue that a country which was posed as a secular country, a democratic country, a country with sort of a credential which everybody used to love, is now gone. Now India is unfortunately a fascist country under an extremist political leadership which wants to take that particular country to a place of no return, where there's no human rights are respected, where there's no respect for any freedom of expression, freedom of rights, freedom of association, freedom of religion. So I think this is something which he was highlighting, and this is not only him.
Let me ask you a question that, Field Marshal made other observation as well, and we will obviously I'll be obviously asking you a question on this. But first, according to your analysis and estimation, I mean, India is basically running on the road of self-destruction. But how long would it last? I mean, it takes years and decades and centuries to build a nation. But when it comes to the destruction of a nation, it takes, maybe the moment. So do you think that all these policies by Modi Sarkar, obviously, inspired by the RSS extremist ideology, it would implode sooner than later?
I think we have already started seeing that that these policies are being already not only imploding within India, but also from the rest of the world economic and political powers, the Five Eyes, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK. We have seen reports. We have seen the former Canadian Prime Minister speaking about this. We have seen the US Justice Department. We have seen Qatari politicians and Qatari courts. We have seen many others where the state-run terrorism is somehow now become an official policy of the Republic of India. Then we have also seen Prime Minister Modi doing that in Balochistan, doing that in Afghanistan. So there's like a list. Pakistan has given dossiers to United Nations. Pakistan has given ample evidence to the international community, the ICC as well. So I think India is technically, in my opinion, following what the Netanyahu government is doing in Gaza. It's basically annihilation of respect of human rights, annihilation of respect of human law, and what Indians are doing right now under the Prime Minister Modi's government. And when I say Indian, it's not like the Indian public, it's the Indian government, it's the Indian establishment. We still believe that, there's a lot of sane voices still exist in India. But what Prime Minister Modi and his cohorts and establishment in the kitchen cabinet, which Ajit Dol, Amit Shah, and the sorts of them are doing in the rest of the world, and particularly in the neighborhood. We are talking about.
I would like you to stay with us for a while, and let me take this particular point to Ambassador G.R. Baluch. Ambassador, we basically discussing that what Field Marshal stated during his visit to the United States of America, and while he was addressing the Pakistani community over there, and he was basically exposing the real face of India. But the thing is, the Field Marshal specifically mentioned 3 examples. Number one is the killing of a Sikh leader in Canada, the arrest of several of their mercenaries, illegal intelligence officials in Qatar, and of course there is a live example of India's interference in Pakistani affair through Kulbhushan Yadav. But in all 3 instances, although there were hue and cry, diplomatic relations were marred for a while, but the real punishment, the real reaction is still to be seen from those countries which were affected by Indian demonic and hegemonic design. So what do you say about that? So India is still taking the leverage of being a big and the large market for all those countries, or no?
Thank you. See, now, we have to look at India. In fact, Pakistan's perception about India was very, very clear. We were very sure what India stands for from day one, of course. Of course, we started off with a journey, and we visualized when we got our freedom together from the British colonial people that we had struggled together, and perhaps we would grow together, develop together. But unfortunately, the communalism, the racism was ingrained in them. So, and that slowly and gradually, but surely, moved on to the time when RSS, which had started in 1928, ultimately got the power and got this face or the mask of BJP. So what we see is the RSS ideology. It is an ideology of exclusivism, that they do not include the minorities, they do not include other religions to exist. For them, the only person who have the right to stay in Hindustan, as they call it, or Bharat, they call it, as a citizen, if they are to be Hindu by religion. So even say the very facade of democracy is so clearly out of their face, I would just say 3 or 4 criteria on which the world also kind of looks at India and have been giving its own judgment. India is at the lowest kind of ranking in terms of freedom of religion, equality, and even in other indices that the world has determined, or the world which believes in value system, number 1. Number 2, how it behaves like as an actor of international system. A democracy essentially has not to only implement its writ within the region and within our country and try to impose its will within the region and beyond, but it kind of believes and practices the value of and the importance of the international norms that govern the interstate relations, and that is the sovereignty of the trade, that they have to follow the rules. So these acts, the extrajudicial or extra border killings of descendants, that too, that what was their crime? That they did not agree with their exclusive policies, that they did not agree with their Hindutva. These were the people who believed they had their own opinion. How can you go?
One question, Mr. Ambassador, since you are speaking from a historical point of view, one question, and then I move to Brigadier WAQAR Khan. I mean, Pakistan tried a lot in the past to normalize relationship with India, and we, despite all Indian interference and waging a proxy war against Pakistan, and even during the governments of the Indian National Congress, I mean, we tried, but there was no result. So why it is inherent in their genes that they are not going to accept Pakistan's existence or to have a normalized or working relationship with the neighboring country? Even in the during the governments of Congress, I mean, there were dialogues, but there was no result. So why is this? BJP is not alone in this crime.
Yeah, I think you have a point. And I have been projecting this thesis that there is a cognitive dissonance in the leadership of India from the beginning. They did not understand their existence. They thought the emergence of Pakistan was denial of their existence, which is totally a distorted look at or the view of history. It was proved to them again and again through the argument and through the process of creation of Pakistan that Pakistan as a country, as a nation, has those elements, historical, cultural, linguistic. Uh, you take any definition, and this is what the Qaeda-Azam's golden word is, that by every definition of a nation, we are a separate nation, a separate entity. So I think, but this logic, which is the logic of history, which is the logic of understanding, but they do not. And that cognitive dissonance has been continuously been haunting the very thinking of these leadership of India across the board. But it took obviously very ugly kind of form. Yeah. Okay.
Point well
Thank
taken,
you.
Ambassador Saab. Brigadier Wakan Khan Saab, so during his speech before the Pakistani community in the United States Field Marshal, he basically thanked President Donald Trump for his intervention to stop a brief war between India and Pakistan. Although after a false flag operation and India's aggression, Pakistani security forces were vigilant, and we paid back the enemy in the same coin, and of course they faced international humiliation, read India. Now the question is, President Donald Trump, he basically, mentioned his role during Pakistan and India affair more than, dozens of times. So now some of the people, they are pinning hope that President Trump might play a role, more constructive role of resolving the core dispute of Jammu and Kashmir as well, because Pakistan nominated Mr. Trump for the Nobel Prize, and recent, peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia is the testimonial of that Mr. Trump can, and if he wants to, resolve any of the complicated matters in the world. So those people who are pinning hopes on President's role in Kashmir affair, are they right or no?
I think both President Trump and Field Marshal Assam are actually straight shooters, and it's not in a negative sense, but it is that I think, they will not resort to, let's say, dilly-dallying. They will basically focus, get hold of the problem from its horn, as they say, getting the bull of its horn and then solving it. So I think one is that's the reason there's a lot of chemistry. The other is, I think there is a moral collapse of India externally and internally. I'll just diverge to the internal, factor, because that is very important. Then it reflects, how external foreign policy is being managed in India. It's such a fake state. It's a very, very sorry state of affairs. I just take a minute. There's a, mandir in Karnataka, Dharamsala, and I think it's very less discussed in Pakistan. But just look at how atrocities are committed against almost 1,000 young female. The reports are that they were, and over a period of almost 15 years, from 1997, 98 till almost 2020. So it's almost like 22 years. The administration, which is headed by Mr. Hegde, who is a senator, and then this family has been a kind of in charge of that temple. And this temple is a kind of VVIP temple where even Prime Minister Modi has gone there, and a lot of VIPs go there. And it has done a lot of wonderful work. But what happened to these, almost 1,000 ladies was they would normally vanish, for last 20 years what happened, the ladies would vanish, young girls, and then there'll be no, shunwai in, let's say, in the police stations or judicial system. So now there is a whistleblower who was burying their bodies, and now things are coming out. But still,
Of
the
course.
powers are trying to suppress it, because that exposes, five things. And then I come to the external. That's a total collapse of Indian moral system, judicial system, administrative system, social and political system. It's total collapse, and they call it a democracy. That you buried about 1,000 women without any reason, and then you are not accountable. Nobody had the guts to take it to police because police was also under the and I would say influence of powerful. You couldn't take it to judiciary. Just imagine it is happening anywhere in the world. So that is the I would say how the Indian people are being oppressed. Now come to the external factors. I think same policy of
One
oppression
question on
they
this.
brought.
One question on this internal factor, Brigadier WAQAR Sahab. One question on this internal factor. Although I mean there is, of course, I mean a strange tactics employed by Modi Sarkar or the BJP to win the elections. I mean they drumbeat the Pakistan's anti-Pakistan slogan and to gain the sympathy of the common people. But India, I mean, they have a very high literacy rate over there. I mean, they have access to internet. I mean, they have access to the media. There are some, secular parties still working over there. So why people in a large number still, casting vote for Narendra Modi, for the BJP, despite these facts, all these blatant facts right in front of their eyes, that how they are treating, the scheduled caste, how they are treating the non-Muslims, and how they are basically taking India to an alley where there would be destruction, nothing else.
I think there are a couple of reasons. One is, of course, that since BJP came to power, although they were in coalition earlier than that, but 2014, then they had a formula that if you could get hold of over 30% of hardcore Hindu vote, then nothing could stop it because India is quite divided. If you look at the south, there are regional parties like DMK and AIDMK, then West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, even in Indian Punjab, normally it will be anti-BJP winning. Then you even go to Maharashtra with Shiv Sena, and the northeast is totally different. So it's basically Hindi heartland they were targeting, and then somehow this formula did work. But what has now happened to this so-called vote bank is also being challenged by Rahul Gandhi. You've seen his presentation that there has been so much, fakery in the total system, especially since the EVMs came into it. Like for instance, he was quoting that, and this is the data from Election Commission, that there are houses with, house number 0, just imagine, and parents' name like ABCD, and lakhs of votes were stolen just in one, I think, constituency. And now this has become a bombshell in India. So it means that secular India is fighting back. Though I don't even trust the Congress, but somehow I'm looking at the corrupted system. Look at how the BJP has been able to corrupt the judiciary, the let's say election commission, bureaucracy, police, and even the military. My course mate, one of the air chiefs, we did course together in Bangladesh. RKS Bhaduria, he became the air chief of India. He now joined BJP. I was surprised, such a secular guy. We used to play, squash with him in Bangladesh. But now he joined BJP. So look at the elite of the military joining, BJP. So basically, this is how they control. But I think the left and the liberal India is going to push, and there's going
Of
to be
course,
huge
but
change in how
Brigadier
they
Sahab,
oppress.
let me bring Humayun Khan into the debate. It's a very interesting angle you just mentioned. Humayun Khan, are you still with us?
Gee, I am with you, sir.
Brigadier WAQAR Khan just mentioned that secular India is fighting back. So my question to you is there anything like secular India left in India or no?
I think I agree with what Brigadier Saab was saying, and then there's also another angle to what Prime Minister Modi and his establishment is doing to the rest of the India. The media is completely controlled by them, the judiciary is completely controlled by them, and now what Brigadier Saab was mentioning, even the elite of the military is also buying to this idea that, if you tap into the top echelon of Indian establishment, and if you are a Hindu, Brahman, upper caste person, you get to do what you want to do. And that's basically something where a lot of like the downtrodden caste, as they say in India, are used to fight, but now they've also accepted this thing that since this cult of Prime Minister Modi is becoming so popular, so the ideal thing to do is just to side with them and ruin the secular version of India that we used to hear in our stories in good old days. So in that sense, yes, uh, there is still a lot of people who want to say something against them, but the way Prime Minister Modi and his establishment is operating, they're controlling almost every sphere of Indian public sphere and international sphere where there's no room for any other caste. So it has to be a Hindu Rashtra where what Prime Minister Modi and this RSS ideology is, it should be the official version of the Indian state. And that's basically where, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I am very sure in this sense that I've seen this happening for last 10, 15 years, that India is going down the lane where there's going to be no return, and there's going to be a destruction for not only them but also for the region, because we are talking about Belt and Road, we are talking about connectivity, we are talking about South Asia, Central Asia connectivity, we are talking about having good neighborly relationship with all the neighbors, and just pick one country in SAARC where that country is basically ruining the entire idea, and that's India. No other country is doing that. And India, being a bigger brother, elder brother,
Of course.
should have done
And
better, but what they're doing is, unfortunately.
And earlier, Humayun Khan, we were talking about this sort of new thaw in the relationship between the US and Pakistan. I mean, take example of the relationship between India and the United States. President Donald Trump publicly rebuking India that why I am raising the tariffs against India. It is purchasing oil from Russia, and it is not giving any concession to the US products or any imports from the United States of America, and there is the high tariff in India as well. But in case of Pakistan, we were never questioned that why we are having such a strong and solid relationship with our neighboring country China. I mean, of course, China and USA, they are having their own sort of disputes, but Pakistan never felt or faced the pressure like India is facing a pressure because of its relationship with Russia. So why it happened? It's because of the good diplomacy our leadership conducted in the recent past.
I think it's a combination of both the things. A, it was one of the best diplomacy in terms of political diplomacy and also in terms of military diplomacy. And B, Pakistan has always been having this very valid and interesting policy where we said that, we are not going to be part of any camps politics. We are very good. We have one of the best relationship with China, and we also have one of the best relationship with the US as well. We were one of the most non-NATO ally of the US. We were one of the most important partners in war against terror. We were always trying to balance the relationship. Whereas in case of India, from the very last 30, 70 or 40, 60 years, they have said that, we are non-aligned. We don't want to be part of this. We don't want to be In this particular case, which you just mentioned, India has been one of the best used to have best relationship with the Russians. They are trying to now mend their fences with the Chinese. They were very close with WAQAR, Quad. They were also part of the BRICS. So you just can't you can't have your two legs in two different boats. And when you publicly say that, we don't want to be part of any of the bigger camp, but at the same time, you're always in one camp going against the other camp. So in that sense, I think Pakistani diplomacy, political and military at the same time, has done wonders in the last few years. The relationship which used to be called as a transactional relationship with the US, now it has becoming a strategic relationship. We have had agreements. Field Marshal Asim Munir has gone to US twice in 2 months. Now, you can never name any country in our recent history where such a highest level of visit has taken within the span of 2 months. That shows how we value our relationship with the US, and that shows how
right.
US
Absolutely. I mean, let me take this to Ambassador G.R. Baloch. Ambassador Baloch, so Humayun Khan Sahab is saying that such significant visits by Field Marshal and, of course, other gestures of friendship and goodwill and relationship by the from the highest level of the two countries. So this is what India is not digesting, and that's why it's resorting to cheap tactics like using proxies against Pakistan. That's why we are facing and observing surge in the cross-border infiltration into Pakistan and more attacks on our security forces and other soft targets.
See, India has metamorphosed into a state, as I said, which is shown off, or it doesn't have those, what is called state as a rational organism or a state organization. It's not. is not a rational being now, as normally we are taught in the political science. So it's an irrational actor now within and without. The reason is that there is apparently, yes, a process of democracy and all of that, but actually the power is concentrated in few hands. We are since talking about international relations. So Pakistan's international relations are the result of a collective wisdom. Behind it also is the will of the people. When we say collective wisdom, it is the professional diplomatic corps, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the political leadership, the military leadership, the civil society. Even we as ex-ambassadors give our input. We have small little groups, and it is seen and kind of acknowledged, even if policies are formulated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other institutions. What I mean to say is that there is a positive approach to this, and that has resulted into a most balanced relationship that ever a country can have it. And the reasons are that we have high credibility, we have trustworthiness. While contrary to that, India has lost the trust of the international community. And because it allied with one of the bloc against another emerging power, China. And then when it came to even being faithful to the other with whom it stood as an ally, it did not. It betrayed. And the way Trump is justified in saying that if you say I'm part of India, say that part of the court, it is buying 30% of the oil of Russia. So he's right that India hasn't been indirectly kind of fueling the coffers of Russia to fight that war, because essentially Russia now has the major, because you know what, they spend about $1 billion a day, the Russians, on that war in Ukraine. So, but we have been able to trade a very balanced approach. That is good relations, strategic relations with China, but and very good friendly and warm relations with Russia, and of course our historical
Exactly,
strategic
exactly.
relationship
But
with USA.
of course, point well taken. But Brigadier Wakar, but don't you consider that India, being a friend to any country, is a friend which would always backstab you whenever the time comes? Take Iran-Israel conflict, for example. Not even a single statement in favor of Iran, despite the fact that both India and Iran, they are, having a very good economic relations, and India is investing a lot of money over there in developing the port, and Iran is giving the contracts to India. So, but despite these friendship, so-called relationship, and in the past, there was a problem, of course, with Pakistan as well. But now, India is a country which would backstab you whenever times come, even if you are its friends. Not the country, but the leadership which they have, in a strange and demonic ideology.
Yeah, I think India has had a serious problem of one is self-entitlement, misperception, and then of course trying to, I would say, punch below its weight in the competitive nation. And somehow the West did prop them, they pampered them, and I think I agree with Ambassador that they were basically prepared to be a counterweight to China. They were expected to actually cross the line of actual control with China, do something, and then also be very aggressive partner in the, let's say, Indo-Pacific, as they call it. And then I think the West also realized that ultimately India proved to be a paper tiger. Now there are, I'll just take a minute. For last 6 years, there have been three clashes in the region. In 2019, there was swift retort by Pakistan, which started establishing a fact that Indian military was basically a paper tiger, but still people had doubt. Then China occupied 4,500 square kilometers in Ladakh, and Modi said, "ना कोई हमारी सीमा में घुस आया ना घुसा." So it was, and that was a big shocker. I remember when AUKUS was being orchestrated instead of Quad, the reason was that India was the weakest link. So whatever was the commitment, in Quad, then you were supposed to deliver. And then came, May 2025, and India actually got its jaw broken by a comparatively smaller power. Although in terms of capability, I still feel that we are peers of India, maybe better. And I was in Turkey when this was happening for the last 3 months, and there was huge, celebration in West Asia. And also, I think if you look at their foreign policy of Jay Shankar with laser eye, people say it's basically a TikTok or social media policy. that you are basically trying to do, brownie point scoring and then pleasing Mr. Modi and the way Modi is projected. So I think this hollowness has been exposed to the world. Even if you look at the economy, there are Indian, I think, economists who are saying that in case you take out Adani and Ambani and then take out the 5%, which hold 95% of India has less, I would say, per capita income than actually most of the African countries, less than $1,000. So it means that basically it's a hollow economy, and it's only some of the elite, which is basically corporate India being bankrolled by Modi and Modi being bankrolled by corporate media in political power. As somebody mentioned, the entire media is now bought by them. So this is the hollowness which is now getting exposed. Look at how Adani is being charged in United States. This is huge. He's one of the richest people in the world, or let's say in Asia, and very close friend of Modi. But basically, he's involved in overseas these fake companies and fraud in the United States, and he's being charged. So this thing has, even in UAE we've seen couple of Indian tycoons being charged and running away. Then there are a couple of them who run away from India. So this is that corporate India. So basically, it's a fraud state, and somehow the West has now realized. That's why I think there's a lot of pressure. As I think the dust settles, people come to know, and India would find its place wherever it is supposed to be. I just add that they are very happy. Today they were trying to taunt me that we are going to China. I said this is SCO's conference. Even Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif will be going. So, and we are very happy you are there. Are you going to solve four problems, for instance, of Dalai Lama that you've kept? Are you going to demand President Xi to return you 4,500 square kilometers? Are you going to stop China from building, this huge dam, Yarlung Sangpao on Brahmaputra River, as they call it? And
Point taken, point
that's the
taken.
demand. Yeah, the South Tibet, Arunachal Pradesh. So you can settle it and be happy with China. Yeah.
Of course, of course. But Mr. Ambassador, what does your experience say that how to live with that type of neighbor? But it's a stark reality that India is our neighbor. We like it or not, but it's a reality. But the kind of neighbor India is right now or used to be, I mean, it's a horrible fact for us. It's a nightmare. So how can you survive or live with a neighbor like that? While, I mean, we are not a very rich country, we are struggling, we are trying to improve our economy. That's why all these high profile visits, and we're trying to bring investment and trying to increase our exports in the tech space. But with the country like India, the enemy like India, and how it's trying to frustrate every effort we are making to make the life of the people of Pakistan better and ultimately bring prosperity in the region. So is there any solution the diplomacy would offer us, or no?
Well, I think what they call imagination sometimes can take you to various options. And there's one option that we have been discussing in our forum, whether Pakistan, China, India, can they ever make a trio? And in fact, it was proposed by President Xi when he visited, had an informal, I think it was before Galwan, that he went and stayed there and had a informal summit with Mr. Modi. And exactly he said that the future for your country, the future for this region lies among the three of us. And there is no kind of, you cannot disagree with this wisdom, which again is kind of a wisdom which comes only from the leadership of China. And I think India, first of all, India has to themselves come out of the spell of this politics of hate, of otherness. So they have to first of all find the Indian soul that made India that India was. So first of all, I think
For that, we need to wait for another or maybe younger leadership to emerge in India. I mean, we really cannot, think or believe that this leadership would be thinking so rationally as you are speaking.
yeah, there'll be like, but I'll just make 2 points. First of all, I think we should start addressing that young leader which has some kind of a future ahead, and let our also young people be kind of also addressing. So there is a important, I mean, there is a need for a track to diplomacy, public to public dialogue, so that we can get these people out of the danger of the PJP. That what kind of, I always been saying, I think perhaps I said it on your program, that this BJP regime is a danger, first of all, for their own people, for the region and the world at large, so that to get it out of that. But then I'll just add one thing. We as a nation, since you asked the question, my bottom line is that hadith, that famous hadith, when somebody asks Khalifa Umar Farooq, okay, what is the best way for a state to state and govern? He was praying and he removed the Jai Namaz and showed the soul that you have to be strong. So we have to be strong militarily, we have to be strong politically, and most of all, economically. So, inshallah, we are moving towards that side. And when you are strong, nobody can look at you. And even if they want to talk to
Point
you,
well taken. Point well taken. Lastly, point well taken, Mr. Ambassador. Lastly, Brigadier WAQAR Khan Sahab, I want you to clear one thing, that Pakistan or Pakistanis, they are not against India as a country or against the people of India, the common people of India. The problem lies with a bunch of people like Narendra Modi, his cronies, and some of the Indian, people sitting in the Indian intelligence, the deep state. So that's the problem. Of course, they are trying to build a narrative that the entire Pakistan hates, the entire Hindu community living in India, or all the people of India, or even the India as a country. We accept the existence of India, of course. We respect their right. We respect their sovereignty, although they violated our sovereignty time and again. So I want you to clear this fact, please.
Yeah, I think as far as I am concerned, I always actually been praying that Modi should stay as their prime minister for another 10 years. But unfortunately, it appears that maybe next month he's asked to resign, because there's an SOP with RSS that you can't hold a public office after 75. There's a lot of debate in RSS to get rid of him. Basically, RSS has failed, and the way, Indus Water Treaty and the kind of hatred they brought. But somehow, I think India, the rational people in India are now, I think, pushing back. There is a, and I would say 10th May was a watershed. Pakistan actually gave them that hope. Otherwise, opposition was almost crushed, so nobody could talk. So this is, I think, Pakistan's contribution to India, the liberal India, that now they have an opportunity to push out this fascist regime out of power, and maybe you'll find it, happening soon, and then maybe we can start talking. But ultimately, we have to keep our guard, and be prepared for any mischief or eventuality. And that's, I think, I agree with the Ambassador that economically, politically, socially, and militarily, you have to be very, very strong. And inshallah, we are moving in that direction. But let's see if the liberal and the democratic India is able to push out this fascist regime. Maybe things
Do you
can
see
change.
any future, Brigadier WAQAR Khan? Do you see any future do you see any future that India and Pakistan relation would come to, would come to some, we have some sort of a working relationship. Both countries would develop some sort of working relationship during the era of Modi Sarkar. As long as Narendra Modi is there any possibility, a remote possibility, that two countries would even start talking to each other? Do you see that?
Yeah, I doubt it, but I think as they're heading to SCO, in case, because now they're looking at re-establishing relations with China, then China can definitely play as they are playing. They brought Iran and Saudi Arabia closer. They brought, I would say, a rapprochement. So there are possibilities, but so far, there is a huge crisis in India. I don't know. I asked them that who's going to receive Mr. Putin when he comes in December. Is it going to be Amit Shah, Gadkari, or
Should we
Modi? So
talk
they're
to
not
Modi
very sure.
Sarkar, for instance, if there was any sort of overture from the other side, should we talk to them? Because on one hand, we are facing, the state-sponsored terrorism in Pakistan from India. So can we talk to such an administration which is harboring terrorism in Pakistan?
It's very difficult. But somehow, I have also a belief, all that was said about another nation, that Bania is either at your throat or at your feet. So if you're strong, maybe, they will come to negotiation. There is a
Of
possibility.
course. All right. Thank you very much, Brigadier WAQAR Khan, for your valuable time. Thank you very much, Ambassador GR BALUCH, for your time as well, Humayun Khan Saab. And thank you very much, viewers, for watching the program. And Khuda Hafiz.